and Polly here from Beaten Jeans. And today we have an awesome interview lined up. We're talking to Karen, who is a fellow CDH1er. She's had a gastrectomy, and she's also an insurance rep, and she's going to talk to us today about, a lot of you are concerned about getting life insurance post finding out that you have CDH1, so she's going to clear those things up for us. So we're going to go ahead and bring her in here.
That's her.
Perfect.
Life insurance and I think health insurance.
Oops.
I don't know. We'll find out what she has to offer us.
Yes. Hi, Karen.
Hey,
Hi.
How are you?
good.
Good. Where are you coming from?
Coming from the Milwaukee area in Wisconsin.
Awesome.
Okay.
Very cool. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad we can finally connect on this.
I know.
I
I think it's like our fifth time rescheduling, isn't it?
I think this was our third. Maybe our third.
Okay.
It felt like a lot.
Well, we're here. We did
We
it.
finally are together.
So,
Karen, our relationship kind of goes back long ago because I spoke with you when I first found out we had CDH1. I believe, gosh, how many years ago was that?
it was in 16. No, it was in 15. 2000. So 7 years ago.
I don't
No,
remember.
it wasn't been that far back. I've only known about CDH1 since 2020. So you might have me, or 2019, so you might have me confused with someone else, but.
Oh, maybe I do. I felt like it was you though.
Well,
We'll
get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
So you found out about the CDH1 gene in 2020, you said?
No, I'm sorry. I misspoke on that. I believe it was 2019.
Okay.
So
2019.
going on almost 3 years. My paternal aunt on my dad's side had called me and left me a voicemail while I was working. And she's like, hey, just want to let you know, I found out why our family has so much cancer. Call me back if you want to know.
Oh.
Which that's never a good voicemail to
No.
hear. Or your work
You're
day.
like, it was on your birthday?
No, during my work day.
Oh,
Oh,
during your
okay.
work day, yeah.
Yeah. So, and for years I had wondered why my dad's side had so much cancer. And even before she had her testing, I actually tried getting genetic testing done, but my insurance wouldn't cover it at that time because I had a lack of warranting it. Mm-hmm. And even then my gynecologist was only going to order, BRCA testing because I was more concerned about my mom's endometrial cancer stuff, not all my dad's stuff at the time. But after talking with my aunt, we got to learn that this gene issue seems to go back to my great grandmother. And so there were 3 generations of stage 4 stomach and colon cancer, ranging between the ages of 47. And my dad, from what we gather, is the oldest one right now who passed. He was 67 when he passed, but they didn't have a primary source for his. But all his metastatic locations were associated with CDH1 and gastric cancer. So since then, there's a lot of other family that's had some testing. Some have come back positive. 2 have had gastrectomies. 1 has had stage 1 stomach cancer come back. I had stage 1 stomach cancer come back. The other one, she went to a hospital that's not really well known for cancer type histories, or more for bariatric weight loss surgery. Mm-hmm. And they didn't find anything, but for all I know, maybe their pathology way of doing things is not specific with what we know hereditary gastric is like. So
wow. Okay, so you said your dad did have cancer and it just metastasized to other parts of his body, but you were able to trace it back to the stomach, or
yep.
Is that
yeah.
Okay?
I actually went in for my genetic testing. I was kind of curious. I'm like, where does this specific gastric cancer metastasize to? Mm-hmm. And I saw it goes to your bone, it can go to your brain, and that's actually where my dad had everything.
To his brain and bones?
Yep. And the brain tumor was actually what took him, because all of a sudden his capacity to do anything on his own went from he could kind of walk with a walker to being in a bed for like 3 weeks, and then he passed away. So
it was young too. You said 67.
Yep. And unfortunately, I lost my mom 9 months after that too. So they were 67. So, but I thanked my aunt before she passed, because she had breast cancer in her mid-40s. I believe she only had one side removed, and I thought she had 12 cancerous lymph nodes. I could be completely wrong about that. But then it came back on the other side. She didn't have removed in her late 50s. She battled stage 4 for 5 or 6 years, being on prophylactic chemo. And unfortunately, due to some cardiac stuff, they had her stop the prophylactic chemo pills, and then the cancer spread everywhere. So as much as the pain she went through, I think her finally getting genetic testing after doctors pushed her was a huge lifesaver for a lot of our family, despite some family going to get tested.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And are your doctors saying that the colon cancer is tied to the CDH1?
Not necessarily, because I am in the NIH program, and when I've talked to Dr. Davis about it, it's still on the fence. Not really too sure. So not really sure if it's just a metastasis of it or if it actually is associated with it. But my great-grandmother had it, my grandfather, and one of my uncles. They all had the same locations. So, and I have already had a colonoscopy before my gastrectomy, and they did find a decent-sized polyp. And actually, in 2 weeks, I'll be having my follow-up colonoscopy to make sure we're still okay. So
good. So that was 2 years ago, right?
About 2 years ago. I mean, it was in May of 2020. So thank COVID and how all that worked during that time frame. But yeah, it was a 7 millimeter Cecil serrated. So it's a little more of a concern than like the tubular adenomas that people might be familiar with that are benign. And I was told 3 years, but since I'm going to NIH for my 2-year follow-up, I'm like, can we just throw that in there?
Yeah. You might as well. You're under already, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Or I guess you're not under because you're not doing scopes,
No,
but might as well do it.
Yeah.
So obviously you had all of this cancer in the family, and you found out you had CDH1. So was it an easy decision to move forward with having the gastrectomy? Were you like, yes, I'm going to do it, sign me up? Or were you hesitant about doing it?
Oh, I think everybody's hesitant. I don't think, sign me up. If the mastectomy side of it, I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. Get rid of that, which I actually had that in November this last year. The stomach stuff took a lot for me to come to terms with. I knew it was probably the best decision. I'm also very faith-based, so I use my faith to try to help guide me to make a decision, which there were some cues and everything that helped lead me there. But then after my baseline endoscopy, saying there was one suspected area for the signet cells, I kind of knew, all right, my prior decision is a little solidified. If my final pathology comes back actually showing cancer, then I know I was justified, but it still sucks because I know everyone's like, oh, you've lost so much weight, you look so good. I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't wish this upon anybody. The lifestyle change, as you know, is not the easiest to navigate. And even being 2 years out, I still struggle when I see people enjoying life, and here I am like, I can't eat that. I can't eat this. So that's for me the biggest challenge still, is just still not being able to eat what I fully want.
Yeah.
So did your initial biopsy then come back with signet cells, and that prompted you to have the surgery?
I mean, I had made the decision to go with the surgery beforehand. The signet cell possibility on the biopsy did definitely pushed me more toward, okay, this is the right decision. So, and Dr. Davis said they didn't even do a full pathology in my stomach because there were signet cells everywhere.
Oh,
Oh my
really?
gosh.
Oh, wow.
I even had looked at my pathology results just recently because I was kind of curious, and yep, it just said there were multiple locations, small pieces, you know, of signet cells, and it didn't even give a number of how many spots. So I'm grateful for that.
Thank God.
I'm
Yeah.
really curious what your stomach looked on that first endoscopy, what it looked like. Did it look pink? Did it look healthy? Were there any obvious signs of anything?
Nope, nothing at all. So based on what everything seemed like, everything looked normal, just like how everybody else says, just all those biopsies they do. And I apologize, my dog is whining in the background.
Oh, that's okay.
Hi, doggy.
Hey, come
We love
No?
dogs.
So, okay, yeah, I was just talking to my mom this morning. This is sort of a little tangent, but you've got Polly who did so well, and then our cousin who didn't do so well with the surgery, and she's still trying to, you know, kick this nasty infection. And I'm in the middle seeing someone do so good and someone do so not good, and I'm still right back at the same square one. I just wish there was like the answer, like, you should go forward and do this, you're going to be fine. But there's no handbook. We've said that so many times, and it's
an individual decision,
so
and you
hard.
have to be confident with your decision,
Yeah.
because there's no turning back once you make it.
I know.
Yeah, being the first in my family to undergo the knife, I mean, I've tried to be a resource for my half sister, who's also on our CDH, you know, support page. A cousin of mine, I tried to be there. Again, she went to a hospital I wasn't familiar with. They actually did a pouch for her, so I couldn't necessarily relate to how her recovery was going to be. But just to at least help guide them, give them the resources that NIH provided, you know, myself and all their other patients, because they didn't have any of those resources. So
Right.
I was very surprised to hear that they were not given resources about how to eat or diets and everything like that.
No.
So it was great to be able to be like, here's some paperwork, read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely ask. And I believe doing that helped them to know, okay, first, I'm not alone, and this makes more sense.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
I know. I was just talking to a friend of ours, a friend of a friend of a friend. They had their gastrectomy, and they weren't even told to take supplements or vitamins of any kind. They were told to take a Flintstone vitamin.
Yeah.
It's like shocking how they're just sent home with no direction on how to live without a stomach.
Yeah.
Yep. I even last year, the dietitian said, "Oh, your iron levels were getting low. You better take some supplementation." Well, I didn't listen, and now here I am anemic. So I get it. Maybe it's also the patient may not have listened, or like you said, you know, sometimes aren't necessarily prepared to give patients the correct information, or they don't necessarily know, especially with our CDH1 situation. No doctors in the Milwaukee area know anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
I even asked my genetic doctor, I'm like, how many people are actually positive that you've worked with? And he said, you're one of 6 in the last 3 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Know how few, because otherwise I would have had to go to Chicago or to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, if I wanted local care. And that's still hours away. But I chose NIH just for the research side of it.
Yeah.
I'm a huge proponent. Even after my dad passed away, I signed up for this American Cancer Society genetic cancer research study that I'm still a part of. So it's hugely ingrained in my love of trying to help the medical community to better understand things. So yeah, especially because I know that you have kids too, and just try to help them in the future.
Exactly.
Not what we're going through. So
that's our huge motivation.
Yeah.
Our next generation, we got to find something better for them. Yeah. So in the beginning, how was your recovery, you know, in those first beginning days? Did you struggle at all?
I know, coming from the hospital perspective, because again, that was during COVID. My husband wasn't allowed to visit me at all. I know Once, the epidural pain medication came out, definitely was the roughest day overall. But after I came home, like my father-in-law was surprised to see the day I came home, I'm just eating pita chips with hummus on the couch. And like, you look like you haven't had surgery. I'm like, oh, but I'm also the type of person that likes to recover quickly, but I'll push myself to a point to my max. And if I know it's too much, then I'll pull back. I did sleep a lot, which I'm sure a lot of other people have. I never nap, but every single day I would take like a 2-hour nap. If I remember, because again, so long ago that, 2 years ago is still a blur, but I just remember gagging a lot at the beginning just because wasn't familiar with things. Got to learn that I had the lactose issues that some people do right out the gates, which did normalize after 2 months. Whey protein, definitely learned, had a hard time with that. And even now I still have issues with whey, depending on what else I've eaten throughout the day. So, and also just that figuring out the densities of what foods work, what doesn't work. The water situation, a lot of people have issues with. And a lot of people are always surprised when I go out to dinner with them. I can tell them I can drink this water. I can't drink this one. And they're always surprised, like, really? There's a difference? I'm like, oh yeah, there's a density difference. Why? I don't know why that makes a difference with what goes down.
What do you mean? Like, you can drink this water, but not this kind, like filtered versus tap?
Depending, like in certain restaurants, like it goes down so much easier than if I went to a restaurant maybe down the street.
Oh, weird.
Wow. That is weird.
Yeah.
Have you tested it? Like, do you have a water filtration system at home? Are you able to drink that?
I do have water here. It can go down a little hard at times, but I usually have it with something added. So some water flavoring or lemon or something just to help cut it down.
Right.
Otherwise, I have no issues with alcohol. Like beer, I can handle the carbonation. Same with soda. It took a while with that as well. But I have no issues with carbonation now. Whereas like at the beginning, definitely did. And I did let everything go flat and then drink it. But now I can just drink straight out. So
good.
Wow. So it's really just relearning how to eat all over again.
Yep. Which I'm sure you experienced yourself going through it and seeing all the differences. And
I know I haven't had any problem. I hate to admit that, but I don't know what's my deal.
We keep saying, was she in like the placebo group? Was there a placebo? Maybe he didn't take out her stomach, but he just said that he did.
I don't know.
It's weird. So wait, so you said you had problems with dairy and you still have problems with whey a little bit. Did you have those problems prior to the gastrectomy?
No.
Okay.
And actually even with the dairy stuff, after a while I started taking Lactaid just because like if I took Lactaid or some type of lactose intolerant pill, would that help? And it did. So I did actually use that for about a month and a half. And then I would slowly try to eat dairy again without notice that, okay, whatever those enzymes are in your stomach, really, they redeveloped and now I was able to eat it without an issue.
Oh, that's a really good tip.
That is a good tip. Lactaid, it's like a little chewable tablet, I assume.
Really kind of gross, actually. It tasted like dry milk, which was super, but it helped. I mean, I was very surprised that it helped.
Well, that's worth it for all those dairy lovers out there that aren't able to ingest that now.
Right. And especially considering that's a big bulk of that protein that we need too.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. The concern was I need protein, but I get it from dairy a lot. And so
small volume, high protein.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're about to celebrate your 2-year, right?
Yes, in a couple of weeks. March.
Oh my gosh.
October 5th, 2020 was my date. So,
and you just finished a 10K, right?
No, I'm actually going to be doing a half marathon in 2 weeks. So
I saw you did a 10K, no?
That was at the end of July. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I ran 12 miles.
Oh my gosh!
I'm still tired.
Were you a runner before the
No.
gastrectomy? Oh,
No.
that's so
Wow.
cool.
Here, my husband kind of pushed me because years ago I said I want to run a 5K, and then I never did. So at the beginning of May, he's like, let's get you going on that. So now
Oh,
K's, a 10K, and now I'll have a half marathon coming up.
That
So,
is
That's
so
amazing.
impressive. And you can keep your stamina, your energy up during your race.
yep, I've been trying, and I tell like my non-gastrectomy friends, it's so hard to get those calories replenished. I don't think I have ever replenished any of them, but I haven't lost any weight.
right.
Not
So
Okay.
you're probably gaining muscle.
I'm hoping that's the case. I mean, I'm definitely noticing my muscles are getting more tighter and everything. I did, granted, after my 12 miler on Sunday, I did weigh up, and I was the lowest weight I've been since gastrectomy, but I know it's a lot of water weight because I tried shoving water back in, and then I went back up to my normal the next day. So that is still the one thing that I've noticed with running. I can't run and drink at the same time. It hurts. I can walk and drink. That's not so bad. So
They're coming up probably.
I think
feel like coming up.
yeah, it's super weird, and I'm still trying to navigate how that all works well. But I think that's why I've been dehydrating myself while running, is because I don't drink while running, and I don't want to stop and walk because I know my legs are not going to want to get back into it.
Right.
But I've been relying on several other people from our CDH1 community about the best ways to run. So
Good.
Are you
And
eating or snacking along the way if you aren't drinking?
no.
Wow, I can't imagine running that long
I
and
know.
not drinking.
I can't either.
I would see the water stations when I did my half, and I was like, oh, thank God, I love you people.
Did try eating a banana once beforehand, and I mean, I don't know if either of you have been runners before, but unfortunately, also adding the gastrectomy, I had to use the bathroom at mile 3 because the banana went completely right through.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I was out in the middle of nowhere and there was only woods, so
Ah.
I had to hide amongst the trees for that.
Hopefully it was quick.
Yeah, you know, it's never a pleasant thing, but I know in our community, hey, poop's okay to talk about, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Everyone wants to know about the poop. For
yeah,
sure.
they do.
Yeah.
So what was your starting weight before gastrectomy, and then what are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so because it was also COVID, and knowing I was going to lose my stomach, I gorged myself the months prior. So the highest I got to was about 220. And then, so October to middle, end of May, then I dropped to about 145.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
About 70, 75 pounds I lost. And I've been maintaining that.
And how do you feel? Do you feel better after surgery? I mean, I know it's hard with diet and everything, but like physically, how do you feel?
Physically, I'm great. I've never been smaller than a size 10 my entire life. So to be in a size much smaller than that, it still psychologically weirds me out.
Yeah.
I did, before surgery too, unfortunately, I did have the psychological concern of body dysmorphia, or, you know, not seeing yourself the way that others see you. I always thought I was very overweight. So being in the weight I am, I'm finally comfortable with myself, which from a psychological standpoint is great. My husband doesn't have to hear me complain, oh, I'm fat,
Yeah.
even though I wasn't. But my husband and I actually, during the entire gastrectomy process, we actually started doing video work for a documentary he's hoping to edit one day. And we have video of me just a few days before surgery, and then like every couple months after. And anytime I see what I look like before surgery, I almost don't recognize myself because it's so different.
Yeah.
Wow.
You had to go buy a whole new wardrobe, I imagine, right?
I'm still buying a whole new wardrobe.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Ooh, this looks cute now. I can wear this.
That's kind of fun.
It is kind of fun.
Yeah.
But like you said in the beginning, you wouldn't want to have to wish this upon anyone, because to get to that point was so incredibly difficult.
And when I said that, for years I wondered why my family had so much cancer. And because I'm very faith-based, I would pray and ask God to, one, show me why my family has cancer, and hey, can I lose weight? I didn't want it to be in the same reasoning.
Right.
No! He answered!
He did answer you.
So it made me laugh. I'm like, great, I get to find out why I have cancer in the family, and I get to lose weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you ask God a question, you got to be prepared for the answer, right?
So,
oh my gosh.
Wow. And how about your mastectomy with your aunt having the stage 4 breast cancer? Did they find the lobular cells in you?
nope, that came back all benign and clear. So that was perfectly fine on its own.
Right.
Which I ended up flap or the abdominal tissue put up on top. I didn't go implant situation. So I'm very happy with how that was, because also after all that weight loss too, got to tighten up the stomach a little bit and everything.
Yeah.
I
think that's so amazing. That's what I would like to do, because it's natural. You're not putting anything, unnatural into your body. I think that's incredible that you could do that.
And I've talked with my plastic surgeon, and we don't have to do any second type of surgery at all unless I want to. Because I mean, right up here, and I don't know about you, Polly, but like right in here, it is so thin because there's no fat there. And back in April, I saw him and he said, oh, well, we could take maybe some fat from you and put it in there. But now with all the running, I have no fat reserves.
Right. I wonder if they could take muscle, because I'm the same. I'm almost concave right here.
Yep. It's definitely concave, and I hate it. It just feels so gross. But if I don't have any
transplant muscle, can you transplant muscle?
I don't know.
I don't think you can do that.
Something they need to make a different size kind of implant to put right here.
Yeah. So I thought about going back to him. I'm like, what's the point? He's probably going to touch me and be like, yeah, we can't do anything about it. And he doesn't want to take the fat from my thighs for that. So, and that's the only place I know I have fat right now.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I've kind of just come to terms with, well, I'm cancer free and this is what I got. Like,
wear it as a badge of honor.
Right.
Yep. Exactly what I do. My husband made a joke saying, well, because I have the circle scars here, and then I have my gastrectomy scar, and now my stomach scar from the fat, so it looks like a smiley face.
Oh.
He called my character Phoebe. So
yeah, I love it. That's cute.
Oh.
He sounds like a great support to you.
he is. If it wasn't for my husband throughout all of this, I really don't know how I would have gone through it. I know it's a lot for him, especially when he was really confident that I was going to test negative. But I told him, one, my family doesn't have that type of luck. Two, because I did literally at least 30 hours worth of research about CDH1 before my genetic testing. Being an insurance underwriter, I'm very analytical. I need all that information. I need to know everything. There were too many things I kept finding that about myself were similar to CDH1. And the one thing that came to mind was the cleft lip, facial recognition. I'm the only one in my family with a cleft lip. And I had joked around with my mom when she was alive saying, oh, it's because you smoked I have this. Well, now I've learned not the case, and it's probably from the CDH1 as well.
I didn't know that there was a correlation between that.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, for whatever reason, CDH1 gene does something with oral facial development.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Did other family members test negative then?
One half sister has been negative. One half sister is positive. An uncle is positive. A cousin's positive. Two of my brothers don't want to get tested, which that's up to them. But at least the one's wife, she's been asking me questions, and she really is concerned because they do have a younger son. He's got an older daughter who I've tried talking to about it as well. And I think I don't know if it's the male thought process of, oh, it'll be fine. Or at least in my one brother's case, I'm going to die from something. It might as well be this, which I thought was a terrible thought process when he told me that. He actually tried criticizing my one half sister for her decision to go through gastrectomy. And I don't think that was necessarily fair for her, because she's trying to make a decision and he's trying to tell her not to do something without thoroughly knowing all the details.
It's already a hard decision.
It is such a hard thing to
Yeah.
swallow and
Yeah.
to come to terms with. It sounds like he's struggling with that. And our brother did that. We've known for 6-7 years now.
He finally got tested.
just a year ago
Yeah.
tested, and he was always, no, I don't want to have anything to do with that. But finally was, it was his kids that.
Yeah. I wrote, because when I wrote the entire family about my total gastrectomy pathology, I included his kids, all their spouses, everybody on a Facebook message, and sent, just because I didn't want it to just be communicated to them. I wanted all their family to know about it. And nobody really responded, which that's up to them. It took me a long time to come to terms with that, but it's their decision. I'm making it for mine and my family, because I have kids. I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. And we're not going to have them tested until they're much older, due to everyone's recommendation to wait until they're 18. As much as we want to know now, just so we can prepare ourselves mentally for down the road. But if anything, my kids have seen that I'm surviving. My daughter, she is very empathetic, because when I have hypoglycemic episodes, she knows I'm having an episode, and she actually tries taking care of me during those. And so my kids are very aware of what I go through, but they also say that mom is surviving, mom is active, mom is here. So.
Good.
Mom's running half marathons.
It might be one and done one, but we'll see.
Well, I think it's good that you included your nieces and nephews. That's who they would be, right? Your nieces and nephews. Because they can make that decision later on in their life. If their father chose not to do it, then so be it. But then they can make that decision later. I think
I do too.
That's smart. Yeah. That they're at least aware of what's going on, what the possibility is.
Yeah, and I've even tried telling them the statistics. I'm like, all right, if you don't want to get tested, now your kids have a 25% chance of having it. You could have helped them know what their risk factor was. If you at least tested negative, then your kids don't have to worry and they can go on.
Exactly.
I know. That's what we helped for our brother, but our brother tested positive, and should I say it? So did his kids. So did his girls.
Oh, very sorry.
I know. It's such a bummer.
But knowledge is power, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because I mean, what was it in 1998 that Dr. Guilford found the gene mutation and discovered, how it was affecting people? So we didn't have that knowledge. I mean, most of my family that passed away from it would never have known. And my dad, he didn't really know. And he was also the type that didn't want to necessarily do a lot of medical stuff. And they were on a low income, so they didn't have the greatest medical coverage. So they didn't take care of things sooner as well. So.
Right. Well, and they might test negative, and then they can let go of all this worry. This unnecessary worry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about those hypoglycemic episodes. What is that all about?
Yeah, so the late dumping. Usually for me, my episodes happen if I have too much sugar, primarily, is the biggest thing. I've had 3 episodes in total in the last 2 years where I've kind of blacked out because my sugar dropped so low. So when I first started getting the shakes and the sweats, I knew, okay, I'll get a diabetes, blood glucose kit. So I know that I start feeling my symptoms when I start getting to a glucose level about 58, 54. I could usually eat, take care of it, no major issues. Once I get to 48, I really need to take care of it very quickly. Otherwise, I'll have a harder time coming back right away. And I'm always tired when it starts getting that typically low. Because with the last episode I had, that was really bad. I didn't remember things for about 3 or so hours. And I passed out on my couch and I barely moved.
Oh my gosh.
And like I went out to dinner with a friend of mine, and I didn't think about the cornbread that came with my food. It was so good, but it tasted like cake. I didn't think about how much sugar was in that. And within an hour of being home, I told my husband, I need to go inside. I don't feel great. I need to eat. But for whatever reason, I decided to sit at a dining room table, and he found me with my head down. I mean, he had to try to help navigate me back to the couch to try to at least sit and get some food in me. And I don't remember eating it, but I know I ate. And the next day I was still sluggish.
Weird.
Wow.
That's like very extreme.
Did you call that
Something.
restaurant and ask them about their cornbread and how much
No.
sugar's in it?
No. So, but I could just tell, like it had been years since I had cornbread, but just tasting it, I could tell it probably had a lot of sugar in it. So
do you try to avoid sugar at all costs normally?
Yep. I usually try to say 5 grams or less per whatever I'm eating.
You don't want to have that. Oh my gosh, that's scary.
Yeah, it's scary for your kids to see that.
Yeah.
Because this last weekend, my husband and my family, we did this run for our children's hospital, and it was an 8K. So it was 5 miles for a run, and they had a pre-breakfast thing, and everything they had was like major sugar stuff. But there was one thing I'm like, oh, I see there might be nutritional facts. And I think the lady thought I was crazy when I'm like, do you have the info on how much sugar is in this? Can't have sugar. So thankfully it was at 4 grams, and then I was fine. But it's such a hassle to have to look at food labels constantly. And I don't know if you guys had done that, even like you, Polly, before, surgery, but I just feel like I know so much about labels now.
Yeah.
So, and just how much sugar is in everything. It's so shocking to be like, I'm never going to be able to eat X, Y, or Z probably ever again.
Probably like even ketchup, right? Ketchup has a lot of sugar, doesn't it?
It's not, I don't have a problem with it. I only use a little bit if I do use it. So.
Yeah, I feel like just cooking just my own meals from home is the safest thing to do. But yeah, definitely reading labels before I eat anything.
What about fruit? Do you have a problem with fruit? Or are you okay with it?
I'm good. Okay. Yeah, fruit's perfectly fine. Well, it's also those natural sugars too. Yeah. So natural added sugar, should say that.
Okay.
So you have another very important topic to discuss with us today, and that is the topic of insurance. I know there's many people out there who weren't informed that they could have challenges getting insurance after their CDH1 diagnosis, not even particularly a cancer diagnosis, but just carrying this genetic mutation. And I know that you have some information to share with everybody.
Is definitely something I get a little passionate about, just because.
Good.
Yeah, because after I got my diagnosis, I went to our and I'm just to put it out there right away, I'm not going to mention the company I work for. If anybody wants more information, they can contact me directly, but for legal reasons, they really don't want me promoting our company. But I had gone to our medical standard for gastric cancer. And as I was reading through it, I saw any type of gastric cancer was a complete decline. No insurance would be available for anybody. And it didn't sit right with me, and it didn't make any sense, especially since, yes, I had been on the CDH page. I had seen so many people come back saying they're 10, 15 years out and they're doing fine. So I started thinking like, all right, this doesn't make any sense. The reason why they are saying it's a decline is because apparently, and I could be completely wrong with how the wording was, because the stomach is so close to the lymphatic system that they were concerned that it could go and metastasize to other locations. I believe that is the big reason why everything was a decline. So I started digging. And again, this was early in my CDH1 history, way before I even had gastrectomy. And I started talking to our medical director. And I'm like, I think I want to have this changed. I don't think it's fair to individuals who are in my position, because I'm seeing a lot of these people are coming back with stage 1. especially when they find out about this mutation and they're doing something about it quickly. So I actually started working with Dr. Davis at NIH, and then I actually contacted Dr. Guilford down in New Zealand because I wanted the top tier people to give me their insights on the data that they have collected over the years. So I asked about metastatic rates. Like if you're stage 1, what is the risk chance? Because in life insurance, that's the big thing, is risk and what could happen in the future. And people have to, and I know it's a weird perspective to have unless you're in my world all the time, but life insurance or any type of insurance usually looks at your health profile as it is now, because we can't predict what your future is going to be like, because you are seeing doctors, so they can see everything that's being followed. Whereas an insurance company, they're looking at you now and what they think and can predict maybe things will be like in the future. So we call that insurance versus medical risk. And so when I talked to Dr. Davis and Dr. Guilford, they both came back saying that with a stage 1 diagnosis, there is a less than 5% chance of recurrence after 5 years. That made me feel really good about presenting all the other information about, where else it could be and everything else. And I presented it to the medical staff again. There was the main medical director and the sub-medical director, and they both decided, okay, what do you propose to do, or what would you like us to do about this medical standard? And I said, well, I personally think for stage 1 and stage 2 for hereditary diffuse gastric cancer only, just because this is, the area I'm knowing, I feel that we can offer coverage at some point. I mentioned, I feel that with stage 1, we can offer coverage right off the bat, just because it's, the cancer is just in the stomach. It hasn't gone anywhere. I feel we can offer something, but there will be a rating just for a couple years until we get to that 5-year mark.
5 years.
Yep. Just because, again, with that idea of that it might recur before 5 years is so low. I felt that at 5 years after gastrectomy, why have any type of rating on it at all? With stage 2, now I'm trying to remember, I think I said we're postponing giving coverage until either year 3 or year 5 out of, just because, again, now you're starting to get into higher stages. So we want to see a little bit more time out from that. So I know that over the years, people have known me as the insurance guru on the CDH1 page. Every quarter, I feel I talk to at least 3 to 5 people about where they could possibly fall, because we're not just going to look at the CDH1 gastric history. We're going to look at your entire medical profile. And unfortunately for women, we're also going to look at the breast cancer risk side of it. So there is extra concern with that. So a lot of time, if somebody is completely healthy otherwise, let's just say they've only had stage 1 cancer and they are out 2 years, and let's say it's a woman who's had a mastectomy or she's done routine follow-up, we'll be able to make an offer. It'll be slightly rated, so a slightly higher price than the cheapest rate, but at least it's something. Because companies don't offer anything for CDH1 patients. As soon as they see that, they probably decline it right away. Just because for whatever reason, they don't have the knowledge. They don't have somebody trying to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Because I just want to be an advocate for us.
Absolutely. I think that's incredible.
And you spoke up and they listen, these higher ups. That's amazing. Wow. And good for you, Karen.
Yeah. And every time that I do these, one-on-one consults on the side and let people know, okay, yes, I think we could get you coverage, or no, I don't think we could get you coverage. Those that I think we could do something, I always tell them, when I give you this information on where to go, because I don't do like the applications or anything, I just do the underwriting. I'll tell them to go and find a financial representative in their area. I'll give them the website information so they could look for somebody locally. and I'll tell them, tell your rep to put on a cover letter to have your application assigned to me, because I'm the one that wants to track how these type of cases are going through, just because it's kind of like my little baby. And in the 2 years I've been doing this, I've had one application come through that I've been able to approve, and that was 2 months ago. And I got him the second best rate. And I will literally did tear up and cry when I hit the approve button.
Oh my gosh, that's so great.
That is incredible.
Yeah, and he told me before he had tried to get insurance, and he had never. There was one other application that came in after his. Unfortunately, she was a decline, but that was also because there was some other medical stuff that came up after her and I had a consult. So it is possible. It's just a matter of patience and understanding that everyone's medical profile is going to be different. So I can give you good news, I might give you bad news. But with the breast cancer side of it too, let's say if an individual did have breast cancer, there's probably going to be a heavier rating just because it's actual cancer that might have spread. But if it was stage 1 breast cancer, it might not be as bad. So
what if it's somebody who's in surveillance, but they do test positive for the gene? Can they still get life insurance?
Very good question. So I did actually bring this up to them as well. And there are different ratings for those who are doing surveillance only. But if you do test positive for a signet cell during any of your surveillance, you're going to be a decline until you have surgery. Because it's
that. And then once you have surgery, then that rating goes back down.
Yep. Depending on final pathology stage comes back, because we can't say for sure how heavy your stomach might be littered with those signet cells, or if the cancer is spread anywhere, especially since we know that it's not a cancer that gives you symptoms until later stages. Yeah. So
they wouldn't know that until they took it out and saw the pathology.
So they don't see having the stomach removed as a risk for your life expectancy?
Nope. Not really. We might look at like complications after, like, you know, we'll make sure there's no major anemia issues, that your like vitamin D levels are doing okay. So those type of things. So we'll just look at the mortality risk concerns about the issues after. Right. Like you know, we just know it's a holding tank overall. I mean, get removed, yes, it will cause other issues, and then we'll just assess based on those other issues, because there's always ways to fix those.
Yeah. Right.
Cancer, that's a whole different story. So,
but there's hope. There's hope for people who didn't have the insurance, weren't informed that they needed to get it before testing.
Yes. And I've had a few individuals who have young kids, and they say, well, should I get insurance on them now? And I always tell them, yes. Do not necessarily get them tested, get them insured, and then you could worry about it. But if you have a child, I would also recommend, one, if the company you're going through has any type of benefit where you can get additional coverage down the road without showing insurability, I recommend that. Like with my company, we call it the additional purchase benefit. And what that means is that at certain ages, when you're an adult, you are offered additional coverage without any insurance underwriting for whatever the premium is. So like for my kids, I have a $25,000 minimum policy on them, but each of them have a $25,000 additional purchase benefit. And I believe we offer it 9 times. So they can potentially get almost $250,000 of extra coverage without showing any medical need.
Wow.
So,
really
so
well, I know when I just had my son insured before I did his testing. He's 22, and there was a lot of pushback and questioning, like, why are you doing this? He's 22. Why do you need health insurance for him? It was kind of a difficult process that they put us through as to explaining why we were doing this without actually telling them.
Yeah,
was carry this gene.
Insurance. You said health, so.
No, I meant life.
Oh, life. I don't know why there would be pushback. So
yeah, they want to sell the
because he probably doesn't make a lot of money. So why does he need this life, and she doesn't have a lot of assets or things to leave behind. I don't know what they're thinking.
I get it. They're probably looking at it more from the, well, we're just looking at a child or a young adult who just might need final burial expenses is probably what they were thinking.
Right.
I mean, I've underwritten cases where I have a newborn and the parents are coming in for $2 million. Doesn't make sense to me, but that's what the parents want. And if I can financially justify it, okay. But when it comes to the medical side of things, that's a whole different story.
Now, I want to ask about different genetic mutations. Like, does CDH1 have a higher risk than, say, like BRCA, or maybe a less well-known? I don't know. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
are there different risk factors for different genetic mutations?
There can be. Actually, just recently, I've had 2 cases that had different genetic mutations I have never heard of. And the only one that we have a standard for right now is the BRCA gene. Any other genetics needs to go and be referred to our doctor's staff, our physician staff, because they actually have access to a whole database of all the genes. They can actually take the actual gene, I don't know what you want to call that, the variant type and whatever your specific gene is, and they can actually look it up and see, is it pathogenic? Is it a variant of unknown significance? So they can kind of look at that, and depending on what they find, it may change how they'll look at the rating. And they'll also want to look at the family history, because let's say with the BRCA, that one, we don't need to necessarily look at family history, but we do look at, are you having mammograms? Are you having pelvic ultrasounds for the ovarian cancer risk? And if you're at least having some type of minimum surveillance, you can get coverage, but it's going to be really high. But if you've had like the bilateral mastectomy and oophorectomy and hysterectomy, we probably would be fine giving coverage without much of a rating, if any. So it all varies and depends. Family history can make it complicated. Genetics, depending on the variant type, if it's a concerning familial type one, we just let our doctors make those final decisions. So it all varies.
Well, I think it's so cool that you spoke up for CDH1 and that you've already been able to help people. I just think that's so cool. So we will definitely put your name at the bottom of this video and hopefully refer some people to you that need help. That need the help.
I know there's probably many that are in need.
Yeah. And I can't guarantee an offer would be able to be made, but at least I could give an idea. The one I always say to people is, no matter what, we're going to get your medical records. So we'll look at all your medical history. Try not, like with these consults, I really want people to open up about anything else that they have, because I don't want it to be a surprise that it's not going to be what
because they're going to see everything, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Because I tell you how many times I get medical records on just regular individuals. They forget to tell me certain things, and then I have to decline them because they forgot to tell me they had a heart attack or all these type of things. So the more information, and if you want to be open about things, it's a lot better, because then I can help you a little bit more to get an idea. So
be honest, people.
Yeah. And then you can get, your answer sooner than spreading it out just to be told no later.
Exactly. And because that's a lot of time, it's a lot of resources and money, because we spend money on medical records, and each facility charges differently for records. So like a 5-page physician report might cost $10 at one, or it might cost $500 at a different one. It all depends on what you want. So yeah.
Well, great information.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much for sharing all that.
Yeah, definitely. And if anyone ever has any questions about how insurance even works, I can try to give as much information. I've been doing underwriting, also just to give context, I've been underwriting for 10 years. So I got a little behind that.
Very cool.
We have our little our CDH1 insurance specialist right here.
So
Thank you, Karen, for that.
Yeah. Well, so I know that you gave us a lot of good advice and knowledge. And is there anything that you want to leave us with today? Any words of wisdom or any more advice you want to share?
I mean, the only thing I would say, like how other people have said in the past, it gets better. It does. I was one of the very fortunate that have not had any complications, other than, the eating struggles I occasionally have, but physically, I've never had any issues. And yeah, it's just interesting to see how the gastrectomy does change things. I mean, even my hair, I know some people have made comments. My hair has never been frizzy or curly. I used to be straight, had a cowlick. Now it's like big frizzy, and I'm trying to figure out how. So that's a different lifestyle thing for me to handle too. Even before this, I'm like, all right, what products can I put in the try to make it look managed? So, but no, I think just so people know that there's hope and you can always live a normal lifestyle if you choose to. I've never let it be a crutch. I've never let it hold me back from doing anything. In fact, I probably have pushed myself farther and I keep myself way too busy and I don't relax enough. So I don't feel like it hinders anything other than I wish I could eat more sweets.
Yeah. When you had the gastrectomy, your kids were 4 and 6. Is that right?
About, yeah.
That's how old my kids are, and I get freaked out at the thought of having gastrectomy with 2 little kids. Was that hard?
It wasn't. Because I mean, they were kind of past the point of needing to be held, or picked up or whatnot. I think my 4-year-old at the time, he still wanted to be picked up, but I'm like, no, you up. But again, they heard us talk about it beforehand. We prepped them ahead of time, and we just really tried to include them in on the journey. The one thing, with Dr. Davis, I mean, he always gives, those little stuffed stomachs after your surgery. My son claimed mine after. Don't know where it is. It's somewhere in his room. So
I think my kids would do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gave it the nickname Tum Tum. So Tum Tum is just wherever my son goes sometimes.
So cute.
Oh, Karen, thank you so much for spending this time with us today and sharing your story.
Yeah, definitely. And would be happy to come back if you ever needed any other more information to be thrown out. So
awesome.
Great.
Very good.
Karen.
Good luck on your half marathon coming up. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll need it. My husband and I ran 3 miles today, and I was tired. I'm like, that I'm slowing him down, but
you got this.
What is the date of your race so we can send positive vibes to you?
Yeah, it's October 2nd. So the original I was supposed to be in, it got canceled. So I'm actually going to be doing another one in the middle, in central Wisconsin. And apparently I'll be running through a dark train tunnel for about 3/4 of a mile.
Ooh, that's fun.
Do you have to have a headlamp?
I think
lights.
Out lights, because apparently there are 4 different species of bats that live in it that they have to wake up.
You're going to run a little faster in that tunnel.
Try not to trip in the dark. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, good luck. We'll be thinking of you. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies, so much, and I hope you have a good rest of your afternoon.
Thank you,
Karen.
Bye, Karen. Bye. Thank you so much.